This video we will talk about importing 3D models and 3ds Max scenes into 3ds Max to render them using VRAY. In the previous video we saw how we can get started with the VRAY for 3ds Max, and we also started to talk about lights and colors, not really materials but using just simple colors in 3ds Max. And so we created this really simple scene and really simple render just to get started. As we said also in previous videos, we're gonna start with really simple things and then we're gonna increase the level of difficulty video by video. So we're gonna start real simple from the easiest thing that you can do, and then we will see something a little bit more complex. So in this video we will see how to import or how to merge 3D models and scenes. We're gonna start with this website, which is called renderpeople.com, and I'm gonna insert a link in the description, and then also we're gonna see other websites. Now I'm gonna start with renderpeople.com because it has a lot of 3D models. These are essentially people that you can place in your scene, but they are really outstanding. They are pretty realistic, and also you will find them in many different 3D formats like Maya, Cinema 4D, SketchUp, Unreal, Unity, Blender, Modo, and Rhino. So you can find them in different 3D formats and also in different render engines. And we're gonna see this in just a minute. So what you can do here to find the free 3D models that you can download without any subscription, without buying anything, just type render people free models, click on the free 3D models, and in this page you will find some 3D models that you can use. And some of those are posed, some of those are rigged, ready to be animated if you know how to use bones and animation in 3ds Max. And some of those are already animated. So I'm gonna go for these, and you can see these are, you can use these for also for commercial renderings and whatever. So you don't need to subscribe, you don't need to do anything, just go there, select the software that you're using. Now FBX, it's a pretty versatile and compatible format that you can use, I believe, with any 3D software. So it's probably the most versatile, the most popular format. But here we have 3ds Max, which is the best and the simplest way for us at this moment. So I'm gonna go here and create a folder for render people and save this file, which is gonna be a zipped folder. Now in my case I already created a renderpeople.com folder and I already downloaded this asset before, so I don't need to do that. But in your case you can create your folder and just save it there, just click on save, and then we're gonna see what you will find inside that folder. So I'm going to go here to file, and since this is a 3ds Max file I can directly open it. I don't need to import it. So I can open it or I can merge it with the scene. So I either import or merge. Sorry, open or merge. I don't need to import it because this is not external format. This is native 3ds Max format. So you can go there, navigate into the scene, to the folder where you store that scene, and double click in the folder, double click the file, and that's it. Now this is one way. Now another way, which is also pretty simple, is to go directly using the Windows folder. Go there inside the folder, and this is the one that I have chosen, which is called Sophia. And go there, you can find these folders right here. Double click, you have a texture folder. I'm gonna talk about textures later. And then you will see here different 3D formats, but these are for different render engine like Octane or native, which is probably Arnold or Corona, and this is VRAY. Now, if you want, you can find videos and lessons and courses about other render engines in our channel, including Corona for 3ds Max. You can also write comments and ask for assistance. So I'm just gonna click and drag, and you can see here again, I can merge or I can open it. Now in this case, I will open it directly because this is not only a 3ds Max scene, but it's also VRAY. So in this case, which is the best scenario, you already have VRAY set up for you. So you don't need to do anything. If you go here to render setup, you can see that VRAY is already there. It's already inserted, it's already selected here in the renderer. So I don't need to do anything here. The model looks fine. The material also looks fine, and the textures as well. So let's run a first render clicking on the teapot, as we saw also in the previous video. But as we know, everything is totally black because we don't have any light. We don't have any lighting source. We need to insert one. In the previous video, we used the planar light or the rectangle light. Now I'm gonna show you another trick. So if you want to do a quick lighting in your scene, you can go to rendering and go down to environment. And this is where you can set the environment in your scene, whether you're using 3ds Max and Arnold or also VRAY. So if you go in the background, you can change the color there from total black to something that is going to be more emissive. So if I go there and set this to total white, I will have a environmental white light that is gonna light up my scene just in one click. So everything now looks flat, but it's visible, and I don't have like shadows coming from lights because I don't have any light, but I do have some ambient occlusion, so some really mild and soft shadows going on there. So this is one quick way you can switch from total darkness into total light, and this is a natural light, white light. Now if we press play, we can also check the animation now. So you can use the timeline at the bottom. You can click and drag the CTI, the current time indicator, to see the animation. And if you're interested in animation, you can check the video course, the 3ds Max video course. We're gonna also talk about frames, keyframes, and all those information concerning the animation. So we run some render tests and everything looks fine. I can see the material is looking fine because I can see the texture applied to the 3D model. So we're also gonna investigate on that. So everything looks fine. I didn't adjust anything. Everything was already pretty much set up for me. Now I've added a VRAY plane again, just as we did in the previous video, to add this infinite plane that is gonna place on the grid, on the bottom grid of the scene. So it's gonna be like an infinite floor that I can use to see some shadows. And you can already see that I only have these really soft shadows. I don't have any sharp shadow going on because I don't have any light. So if you want to have this really diffuse lighting, this environmental light, you can use the environment. But if you want something more specific for the shadows and the lights, we will see later on all the different lights that you can use and all the different effects that you can use using VRAY lights. Now you can adjust a little bit the camera there also with the depth of field and the orbit. You can lock the camera to stick on the perspective, so you can move there the VRAY plane, for example, or move anything else in the scene, or adjust the lighting and everything else. It's going to be interactively rendered into the VRAY frame buffer, as we saw again in the previous video, but it's going to stay onto the perspective vision on the perspective camera. So remember to lock the view there. Now let's go into the materials, and this is the slate material editor. let's go down to the scene materials, and you can see that we have a Sophia material. So if I click and drag that into the slate part of the editor, you can see we have this central node, and it's showing me that this is a VRAY material. So again, everything is already set up for us. We don't need to convert the material into a VRAY material. We don't need to set up the textures. Everything it's already been done for us. So this is the best case scenario, the best that you can find. So to recap, 3ds Max plus VRAY. Now let's do another example using TurboSquid, which is another pretty popular website where we can download free models. We can also buy models and search for professional models. You can see we have many different formats here as well. So we will go for 3ds Max. We can place some filters like the quality, the free, or the animated filter. If you are looking for something more specific, you can also go into the formats. You can see the most popular, which will be OBJ, FBX, and all those. But also we will find 3ds Max. Now Blender, you will find a lot of open source format like Blender or GLTF, and I'm gonna talk about that later. So let's select this one here. For example, you can see it will be available in many different software and many different render engines as well. And also, especially we will have FBX and OBJ. You can see there down below. So let's go there, click, and go into the download part of your account. You need to have an account. You need to register to TurboSquid in order to download the stuff. And I want to use, let's say here, another format. I don't want to use the native 3ds Max. I want to do things a little bit more complex. So I will not choose the VRAY. I will go for the FBX or the OBJ. So I want to work a little bit more. I want to make my life less easier, let's say like this, so we can understand what's the difference between having something in 3ds Max or in an external format like FBX or OBJ. So this is the one that I have downloaded. I can click and drag, and now I need to import that. I cannot merge, I cannot open it directly. I can only import it. And we can see we already have the first issues. We can see it's like upside down, so we need to fix that. So we have a series of issues that usually we need to fix when we don't find a nice 3D model. I think that FBX works better than OBJ. OBJ usually gives more, has more issues that need to be adjusted. So right now I'm just gonna mirror it in the Z and X, and I'm gonna move the offset to place it correctly. Then I can move it just a little bit up there, and it's not visible yet. So it's not visible because it could be a geometry issue, could be a material issue, or you can just sometimes turn off the VRAY frame buffer and then open it up again. So the first thing I can do, I can convert it into editable poly to see if it's a geometry issue and refresh the VRAY frame buffer, and you can see nothing is visible yet. So could be a material issue. Some materials are not recognized at all, so you cannot see the object itself, as well as sometimes some geometry is not recognized. So I'm going to move from the slate material editor into the compact material editor, which is also easier to use if you are a 3ds Max beginner. And again, if you're interested in all of this stuff concerning 3ds Max, you can check our 3ds Max video course. So write in the comments your questions or ask for assistance. Now I go to the tools menu here, and we have some extra VRAY tools, and we have this VRAY material converter. So before we go manually to fix stuff, we can try to do it with the converters. So this VRAY material converter can help us to convert materials. You can see here we can convert scene materials, or we can pick and convert materials. So what I suggest you to do before you go there and go into the materials and do that manually, try with the converters. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So just give it a try. So I can pick a material here to convert, and I can create a copy, and it's gonna ask me to save it somewhere into your machine, your computer. So I'm gonna create a new folder, and I can just call this export, so I can save everything that I export from this scene. So you can do pick and convert. You can also try to convert all the scene materials into VRAY materials, and this is going to be pretty much the same thing. It's going to create here, you're going to select a folder, it's going to create a file, and you can first try to do this. I'm going to show you also another one. So you click there with the color picker, and you can see if it actually turned everything into VRAY material. Now you can see this is now totally gray. So, and it's also having an issue with the pivot, so I'm gonna change the position of the pivot, and I can do this again manually or automatically, and in this case I need to do manually also this one here. So I'm gonna adjust this as well. So you can also assign a standard gray material, VRAY material, and then fix it later, but again, this is something that is giving us issues compared to the other one that was nice and smooth. But this is something that doesn't happen every time. So sometimes you could find models that are good and you don't need to do any fixing at all. Now, another website is Sketchfab.com. This is also a pretty popular website where you can find a lot of 3D models and scenes, really complex scene. So we saw how we can import or merge a simple object, but we can also do that with complex scene. So if I look for here, I can say CC BY or CC0, and I can filter using different filters. And CC BY means that you can use this any way you want, but you need to credit the author. And this is the model here, this is the author. And also you need to subscribe to Sketchfab as well if you want to download the assets. And that's a preview there, and it's gonna tell you how big it is, how many polygons, and if you click on download 3D model, you can see the different formats. Now in this case we don't have 3ds Max, we don't even have FBX, we only have Blender, which is open source, and GLTF, which is open source as well. But these two formats are not directly readable by 3ds Max. So this is another issue. So what we need to do in these cases is that we need to convert these type of files or format into something readable by 3ds Max, like FBX or OBJ or something similar. So this is an extra passage that we need to do, and I'm gonna use Blender to do this, but you can also use other 3D converter that you can find. And if you want, if you're interested, you can check our Blender video course in the channel or other Blender video guides. So I'm gonna extract this file. So you can see this is a Blender file, and I'm going to double click to open it up in Blender. I can also rename it into something simpler like warehouse. So I'm gonna double click, and it's gonna take a while. So while it opens up, I'm gonna go forwards with other example, and we're gonna get back to this in just a minute. So I've already downloaded something else here, like a other files, and this is a OBJ, as you can see there, and you can bring this directly into 3ds Max, just importing it. And let's see something else here. This is a another file, and it's FBX. So you can find FBX and OBJ in Sketchfab, but usually you will find Blender and GLTF, which are open source. And the last website I want to show you is Polyheaven, and I'm going to show you this also later on for creating HDRIs and textures. But you will find some models here as well with material already set up and textures. So you can see it's constantly updating, so it's adding up 3D models every time. So if you click on a model, you can see here the preview, and you can download it in different formats, Blender, GLTF, but also FBX. And I think that FBX here will work fine. So you choose also the resolution of the texture, you click download, you don't need to subscribe here, you just go there and download whatever you want. And we're gonna make an example also using a file from this website as well. So I created a folder for that as well. Now you can see you have many other really interesting 3D models here, like architectural models, and again, Blender, GLTF, FBX. And you also have like this really complex ship model. I think I will go for this just to show you. So again, this time I don't need to convert it using Blender. I just need to download it in FBX. It's not going to be in 3ds Max native format file, but it's going to be FBX, which is going to be good. FBX is by Autodesk, so it usually works pretty good using Autodesk products. So you can go there and download whatever you want here. Everything is totally free. It's CC0, which means it's a public domain. You can use it however you want. So this is the ship. I'm going to click and drag it and import it into 3ds Max, into my scene that I'm assembling. So it's going to be a result of different importing and different merging. And there's my ship right there. Pretty fast, pretty easy. Now sometimes it will not show up because you need to refresh the VRAY frame buffer and the interactive rendering, or sometimes you have to close it up and reopen it. And sometimes it's just an issue concerning materials. So let's get the the material picker, click on the object to see the material, and this is a physical material. Now if we right click onto the object that we want to change and go there down in the quad menu all the way down, you can see we have you can open the frame buffer from here, and below that you have the VRAY scene converter. You also have Corona converter, and because I have installed also Corona, so always look for a converter there. It's inside the software, and in this case we have a VRAY scene converter. So before you do anything manually, try first with the automatic conversion. So I'm gonna select here what I want to convert, what I want to try to convert. Now in this particular example, I want to convert physical materials into VRAY materials. Now you can also convert cameras into VRAY cameras. But we're gonna talk about cameras later, as well as we're gonna talk about lights and materials more in depth. Now this is just quick example of how you can import and adjust. And you can see that this is composed by different pieces. So now it's a VRAY material. So if you click there in the material that we converted, now it's a VRAY material. So everything should look fine, and it does. So you can see now my ship is there, and these are all VRAY materials. Remember that this is composed by many pieces, so you need to convert or make sure that you convert each one of that into a VRAY material. Or you can try with the automatic conversion, and in this case it was successful. Now let's go back to Blender and our warehouse here. So now when you see everything purple is not a good sign in terms of materials and textures. So probably here we have some missing textures, which means missing materials. So if I export this in FBX, this is how I basically convert something from Blender to FBX. So it's gonna be usable in 3ds Max. So sometimes I use Blender just as a converter, just to convert a 3D format into another, and I think it works beautifully. But again, you can find also other types of converter on the web. So I'm gonna create a folder here, call it imports, and I'm gonna save this into FBX. You have many options here. You can export selected objects or not. You can select what you want to export, what you don't want to export, like cameras or meshes or lights or whatever. So you have some options, and let's export. Let's see what's gonna happen here in 3ds Max. Let's go to File, Import, Warehouse. So you can either go there or click and drag as we saw before, and this is the warehouse. Now it has some issues as it could be predicted, but the 3D model is there. We have the 3D models. We also have some extra 3D models, probably because they were hidden in Blender, so we can just delete those. We can clean up the scene a little bit and try to understand what needs to be cleaned up, or what we can maintain. With the material picker, we can always go there and see what the material is. If it is a physical material, yes, it's physical material, so I can convert it into a VRAY material. But these are missing textures, so they all appear white or black, or well, there is no actual material there. We don't have textures, so we need to do that. We need to fix that, and we're gonna do it later. We're gonna work with lights and materials. We also have a directional light, so we can use that. We will see that we can use standard lights, but it's better if we set up those to be used for VRAY. So again, I'm gonna try to convert everything automatically. Right click, convert to VRAY, and just run the converter and wait. There we go. So after a couple of minutes, we can see what's happening here. Everything that could be converted automatically has been converted. Now in the rendering, we also have this scene converter, which can be used all the way around in the opposite way. So if you want to convert from VRAY into Arnold, which is the native render engine now in 3ds Max, so you can convert from VRAY, from Corona, from other render engines into physical materials, which can be used with Arnold. But also you can convert everything into physical materials first, and then convert physical materials into VRAY materials using the right click and the convert to VRAY materials, as we saw. So you have many options here. You can try to do everything automatically, and if you're lucky, everything is going to be taken care for you. If you are less lucky, you need to get your hands a little bit dirty. You need to go there and fix things and adjust things, and you need to be a little bit more expert also in 3ds Max. Now this is the directional light, and it's causing the scene to be too bright, so I'm gonna go there and decrease the multiplier, so it's gonna look a little bit better. And again, this is just a video about importing. We're gonna talk about lights, materials, and all other render settings later on. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel to stay updated. If you want to support us, you can join the channel as a supporter. If you have questions, you can write them in the comments. Also, if you have suggestions for other users. This is gonna be all for this lesson. You can also find other courses in the channel and other video guides. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.